Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunati Jamunatira Vanachare Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Shri Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Krantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashta Prayesva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Ki Hare Krishna. So we continue the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the 4th canto, 12th chapter, text number 6. Is that correct? Bhajaswa bhajani angrim. 21st chapter. Okay, got the wrong information. Okay, let us correct then. Chapter 21. Twenty-one 16. He switched the numbers around. Okay, so there will be off the cuff. Thank you. 21. Let's Instructions of Maharaj Pritu by Maharaj Pritu. Okay. Pujita pujayam asa tatra tatra mahayashaha Puranjana padang stang stan Pritaha priyavara pradaha Pujita pujayamasa Tatra tatra mahayashaha Puranjana padang stang stan Pritaha priyavara pradaha Pujita pujayamasa Tatra tatra mahayashaha Puranjana padang stam stam Pitaha priyavara pradaha One more. Pujitaha, being worshipped. Pujayamasa, offered worship. Tatra tatra, here and there. Mahayashaha, with a background of great activities. Puran, the noblemen of the city. Janapadan, common citizens. Tan tan, in that way. Pritaha, being satisfied. Priyavara pradaha, was ready to offer them all benediction. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Both the important citizens and the common citizens welcomed the king very heartily, and he also bestowed upon them their desired blessings. Purport. A responsible king was always approachable by his citizens, Generally, the citizens, great and common, all had an aspiration to see the king and take benediction from him. The king knew this, and therefore, whenever he met the citizens, he immediately fulfilled their desires or mitigated their grievances. In such dealings, a responsible monarchy is better than a so-called democratic government in which no one is responsible to mitigate the grievances of the citizens, who are unable to personally meet the supreme executive head. In a responsible monarchy, the citizens had no grievances against the government. And even if they did, they could approach the king directly for immediate satisfaction. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sargajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaite Girim Yat Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Okay, this is an interesting jump in chapters. We were thinking about the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj and sort of read up on that. But we've moved from a young Maharaj, Kshatriya boy, Dhruva. Now we are the real Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, the king. So, very happy to be here at Simhachalam. I want to offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnavis here. Thank the authorities for allowing me some service and association at Simhachalam Dham. This is Bhagavatam, chapter 21, text 6. Pujita pujayam asa tatra tatra mahayasha puranjan padang stang prita priyavara pradaha. Both the important citizens and the common citizens welcomed the king very heartily, and he also bestowed upon them their desired blessings. we're hearing the activities of a king. And here it is not a common king, he's a Raja Rishi, saintly king. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that of all human beings, I'm the king, the monarch. In that 10th chapter, the Lord is delineating his prominent opulences within the material world and giving us a meditation. How do we see the Lord when we envision important or prominent features of our material reality? And in the Vedic ages, a very prominent reality was that of monarchs. There were kings who ruled. And the king represented the will of God on earth. Therefore, he was called Naradeva. He's a human god. When the king took this idea of being human god, not really too hard, but when it went to his head, then he generally became an unrighteous dictator. We all like a good villain. And in Bhagavatam we find a few. One such villain is Vena, Maharaj. Vena is famous for being cruel-hearted. As a child playing with other kids, it happened that every so often one of the kids would not come home. Because Vena, if he didn't like what the kid did, maybe he lost, then also he had an anger problem. And he would, as they say these days, unalive the child. We know about children, sometimes when they play, the one who owns the ball, if he doesn't like that he's losing, then he just simply takes the ball and goes home. The game is finished. The other kids, oh, come on, we still want to play. He's fed up. Yeah, Vena, he didn't like that he's losing, then you lost your life. We see also in the pastimes of our beloved Lord Shri Krishna that he would be out playing with his friends, and they were so absorbed in such play that neither the friends nor Krishna wanted to go home. But Krishna's heart was being pulled in many directions. The friends, they're saying, Krishna, what is this? Are you like a mama's boy or something? Why, as soon as you see the sun's going down now, you just want to run home? Just stay and play. And Krishna is thinking, Mother Yashoda, she's always saying, Lala, you should be home before the sun sets. You have to take your bath, we have to give you your meal. And he's in a dilemma. Vatsalya Prema on one side, the Sakya Prema of his friends pulling him on one side. However, we see that in the activities of Krishna, love is the predominating factor. And Krishna himself, he says that love, which is crippled by knowledge of his majesty and opulence, doesn't please his heart. And he gives the example that he's actually much happier hearing the chastising words of his consorts than the reverential hymns of the Vedas. Om Sahasra. He doesn't like so much all of that. But just like here, we're hearing his friends, oh, you're such a mama's boy, you have to go home, Krishna appreciates such chastising words from his friends because they come out of love. And therefore, Krishna is another type of king, but he's the king of the hearts of the devotees. He rules the hearts of the devotees by his power of attraction. He is known as Krishna, all attractive. He doesn't need swords and armies to rule. Simply by his attractiveness, the devotees are pulled towards him. Maharaj Prithu is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is Shakti Avesh avatar, empowered with the potency to rule, and rule with dharma. Therefore, in the Gita, we hear Evam parampara praptam imam rajasayo vidu sakaleneha mahata yogo nasta parantapa. That the knowledge of dharma, which is to protect the living beings, to protect the conditioned souls. Dharma is like, if any of you have herded cows, then generally in that area, I grew up herding cows. I think maybe that's the reason Krishna allows me to be in this movement. I may have pleased him somehow by being bullied by his cows. They look very innocent. I guess maybe the ones that are kept as pets, it was petting them, feeding them carrots and cabbages. The ones we herded, they were not such pets that you're just brushing them all the way. There was a bit of a difference, well, a gap between us and them, because we didn't treat them so kindly. We had sticks. We read in Krishna book about the boys have their sticks and their ropes, but we don't really hear what the sticks are for. I guess in Krishna's case, because there's love, maybe they showed the sticks just to, hey. But we used to, hit the cows. When the cows, when we are playing, I remember we had, wow, actually, the parallels are so amazing. Krishna has his Jamuna, we had whatever that river was growing up. Would be all sorts of games, high jump and all this and that. And the cows, they look at us and they pretend as though they're just grazing. When you look to see where they are, they seem to be eating. When you start playing, they move. By the time you pick up your eyes, they're almost entering a field. Someone's crops are there. And they would split up. A few go this way, a few go that way. So by the time we're trying to stop them, you don't know which group to go for first. So some of them will make it into some cornfield and eat. Cows, yes. So even now, when devotees are, let's go see the cows. I'm just like, yeah, cows, We like them, but not that much because they really made us cry. So anyway, what would happen, and then I'll tell you pastime. During the holidays, we'd go to the grandparents' place. Jai Shri Palani Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. And so the regular kids who stayed at the grandparents who took care of the cows, they would also go on holiday. So they would go to the city to visit somewhere. And we, coming from the city, are going to the village for holidays. And so the cows, it was like almost they understood. These ones, they don't know all our tricks. The city boys. And sometimes they go into the swampy parts and you're trying to run and you're getting stuck in the swamp. And you're there thinking like, why was I cursed to come here on holiday? Now I'm like chasing these cows. But this came up to my mind to illustrate how Dharma is like a protection. So once a month or so, we had to herd the cows towards the deep tank. So different families have to control their herd in groups and almost move them in a line. Quite tricky. But then at the end, there's this crawl which funnels down into these thin railings. So each cow has to march one by one through the deep tank, and they get whatever inoculation they need and out. So although it's difficult to herd them out in the open and keep them in a group, means Dharma is not so strong. They're trying to go this way, that way. As soon as they enter that crawl, then they are protected by that crawl. They're within that circle, you can kind of relax. And ultimately, as they walk further, then it's fine-tuned. Each animal gets a chance to walk on a straight and narrow, and finally gets the medicines that they need on their body to fight off all sorts of ticks. And so in a similar way, Krishna is Dhamma Samstapanataya. He establishes religious principles. And in the most powerful way, as the king, they are protecting and establishing and enforcing religious principles upon the citizens. Therefore, they are the embodiment of those religious principles. When such kings are ruled by Dharma, means in their ear are the Brahmanas. Brahma, Janatiti, Brahmana. They are absorbed in Brahman, in spiritual values of life. Then they can guide the ruler how to keep the citizens protected by religious principles. And not only just the protection of religious principles, Kshatriya protecting from harm. So most dangerous harm is spiritual deviancy. Then the jiva is implicated in repeated birth and death. But also there's the bodily harm, invading kings, loss of property from criminals, rogues, and thieves. So the king protects the citizens on all levels. One type of protection is he has to tax them. Well, anyone who pays tax here may not really appreciate the taxmen. I will not ask, because the devotees, we are a different group of people maybe. Some of us have never paid tax. Oh, this is recorded. I never had a job, so whoever sees this. So the only job I had once, we were selling security systems. This was at university. And the man paid us in cash, so there was no tax numbers and bank accounts. So the king is levying taxes so that the citizens share the fruits of their labor towards the general upkeep of the kingdom. It's a type of karma yoga. Give up your fruits for the greater good so that the king can provide the facilities. So Maharaj Prithu, he is here in the Bhagavatam because his example is to be followed. Here we are hearing that he was being approached by all types of citizens, not just only the important citizens, also the common citizens. Because corruption starts to seep in when the kings or the brahmanas are influenced by kshatriyas who are corrupt or vaishyas who are corrupt. Means when finance starts to influence administration or governance, then that government no longer is a government for the people, but it is a government for the interests of the corporations or the financiers. We can see that also within our Hare Krishna movement. We sometimes experience it within the God family circles. There's Guru Maharaj, who's like Maharaj for all. Prithu Maharaj is the king of the hearts of the disciples. And then there's sometimes disciples who have good bank balance. They can help Guru Maharaj do lots of preaching. They can arrange many things, provide nice car. They can provide a nice home to host the spiritual master. So he has to engage them according to their ability. But then they may then create a situation where disciples who are unable to provide such facilities for the spiritual master cannot come close to the guru. Others, they feel, oh, if you don't have really a good relationship with the richer disciples, then when there's a home program, you have to think very hard, be very humble to go to that home. So the finance starts to create a sort of a control over the spiritual resource of the spiritual master. That is something which is closer to home for us. In terms of governments, some may be interested, some may not be interested in what's going on with the government. But yes, we see also with the governments of the world that they seem to represent more and more not the interests of the common citizens, but the interests of the multinational corporations. They are passing policies that will favor those corporations. A vivid example, since we are talking about governments and kings and democracy, is like the American government. It's a very public government with its Republicans and Democrats. And then you have the concept of the deep state. Ooh, deep state. Yes, we remember Mr. Trump. He came in saying he will drain the swamp, the deep state. So what is the deep state for the devotee whose Bhakti sentiments are being corrupted by this class? It is the elite, moneyed, so-called 1% in the back, big royal families and such powerful individuals who have their wealth invested in practically all fields of human endeavor, whether it's oil, finance, military, education, pharmaceuticals, whatever industries may be there, they have great control from the back. They're super wealthy. And so we see with American governments, then the politicians have what's called lobbying. So those who come to lobby, the parliamentarians, means they have their business interests and they have to influence the government officials to pass policies that will help them get their business interests moving forward. So they are not lobbying for the men on the street, really, how they will be happy and how they will prosper. But they are lobbying to make sure that the man on the street cannot avoid giving his hard-earned money to their business interests. So they are positioning the country to really squeeze out of the citizenry all resources. So when a government doesn't see the citizens as children to be protected, but sees them as clients, customers, then you know what businessman is looking at the customer and thinking, oh, I must make sure that I don't make profit from them, because they are nice. No, the businessman's looking at customers, how to get more profit out of you. Yes. Srila Prabhupada writes, to allay the fears of devotees who may be running business, that, oh, what if we feel like to make money we have to sort of lie? Is that our dharmic, And Prabhupada says, well, there is no business without profit. So if you're going to run business, you must turn a profit. And therefore, it is very common that the businessman is patting the client at the back and say, oh, my friend, for you, I'm not making any profit, actually. I'm just giving you wholesale price or whatever, If you've visited India, you will understand this principle. It's not, I'm not against you, I'm not your enemy, I'm your friend. But, especially you're from the West, how can I not make double from you? It's almost like offensive. So if you're too rigid, you want to fight, then your life is sort of miserable in India. You want to fight for the last rupee, just, pay your tax. Sometimes just let it go. Yes, we try, to bargain, but to expect to get the local price is just, you're being too much, actually. Just let them make their foreigner tax and life goes on. Because how can he tell his friends he took the local price from a Westerner? It's like, are you crazy? Okay. So yes, to have a business means to make profit. However, to make this profit, we see that the interests of the common man become practically immaterial. Just like this one practice, it is said, if there's excess grain or fruit, nature has given, Krishna has given, good yield, there's a lot. But when the supply is high, then those who did economics, then demand goes down. And so to keep the demand up, then they withhold the supply, or sometimes they even have to dump it, throw it away, just so that there's not enough, so that the demand is high and then the price goes up. So when you look at, say, agriculture business or whatever, you may think innocently that, oh, they are planting all this food to feed the citizens. That's what people think. They think it's just, oh, they're so nice, they want to give us food. No, it is agriculture business. Just like I used to think growing up as a kid, I thought this is so nice, human beings. There's all these hospitals and they are studying at universities to get cures for all sorts of disease, health. As a kid, I thought that human beings are fighting diseases and you can never really be sick. You can just go to the hospital, they have all the medicine, they'll cure you. I didn't understand that, no, if you can pay, then you can get the cure. Until a certain cousin of mine, she wasn't serious, but it became serious. Angry, okay, I'll kill myself. She took a couple of pills and we are taking her to the emergency. She's kind of foaming at the mouth. And then the nurses at reception were like, yo, help. They're like bringing us a form. What's your medical aid? First you have to fill this up. Okay, we'll fill it up. Can you help? No, no, until you filled up this, no help. It hit me. I was like probably 7. What is this? It's not just health for the sake of health, or we are all part of this country, we should all be healthy. No, it's a business. Until you can prove that you can pay, you can't get the help. So we see how, yes, profiteering and financial interests, profit making, uh, aids this type of corruption in society. That is why when we hear things like money is the root of all evil, it is the one side of the equation. When there is no God consciousness, that means there is no seeing every living being as the eternal part and parcel of Krishna. Seeing that by serving the living beings displeases the Supreme Father. Then, without that divine vision, then everyone is a unit of possible profit. Therefore, we are educated not to become wise. We're educated not to become liberated from problems. We're educated simply to plug into the economic apparatus, to keep turning the wheels of profiteering. So, karma, artha, dharma. Hardly any discussion about moksha. The worldview of the Kali Yuga person, whatever education is that they have to learn that in life you have to make money. Yes. It's hard to say this word without remembering Srila Govinda Maharaj saying, yes, money is the honey, sweeter than honey, brighter than sunshine. Yes, money, money, money. Yeah, no matter how spiritual you try to be, you can't avoid money has been made the god of the age. Yes. So this type of education is that whatever is being stuffed into our left brains is set later, you have to regurgitate, pass some test, get some sort of paper to show that I've been indoctrinated in the system and I'm ready to, do what needs to be done. Because you get educated people, and Prabhupada would say, where in this university is the department where you can learn what's the difference between a living and a dead body? There is no education on consciousness. And we are spiritual beings, and the body is pervaded by consciousness, which is a symptom of the soul. So when there's no understanding of the soul, then this is miseducation. It becomes certified ignorance, PhD. So others may clap Cambridge ignorance, Yale ignorance, Harvard ignorance, but it's ignorance. Because what happens is that they celebrate one slither of material knowledge that you've studied. Just like some ray of light you studied, biology, and they specialize you also in one branch of that biology and inflate your ego. You're like, you're so learned, So when confronted with the proposal for the real education, that human life is for spiritual education, they size you up, look at your dirty Crocs, Mr. Book Distributor, and think like, what can you teach me, you? One man told me, he said, my brother, if this is not about money, please just don't waste my time. And I tried my tricks, and he said, yeah, you seem like you can really sell things, How much do they pay you here? I was like, no, this is volunteer work. He said, that's where the problem starts. How has your mind become colonized that you're working for free, my brother? He said, I can get you a job, you can be a salesman, you can make so much money. And I was thinking, that's why the first service to the spiritual master is to chant your minimum 16 rounds before you get out of your temple. Because he was professionally better salesman than me. I'm trying to sell him transcendental knowledge. He wants to sell me employment. Yeah, I solve your problems. You don't have to walk the street selling these books. How much do you make from this? It became a whole economic thing, you know, with one day of you selling this, you could make this and that and that. So you can see that the education is geared to some sort of profit, which means make some money to enjoy your senses. Therefore, this karma and artha, they go together. When you don't have money, then also Bhagavatam says poverty spoils like the good qualities of a person. If someone's poor, people don't think there's anything much they can offer them. Even your good qualities are not noticed, known as time. And Kali Yuga means those who have money, then they are even considered saintly. All their jokes are funny. Everyone is just like, they extend all facility, no matter how degraded the character of the person is. So a Raja Rishi, like Maharaj Prithu, takes the citizens into the realm beyond karma and artha, teaches dharma. And he doesn't teach it by speaking all day, but by observing his activities. Example is better than precept. So such saintly kings were personifications of dharma the citizens could learn. And then he protected them by making sure that they are learning about moksha. That this whole material universes are to be left behind. Our movement is about escaping the jail. Srila Prabhupada said, until one has a desire for liberation, then there won't be enough energy to try and get out. So initially, we want back home, back to Godhead. That's what he said, Prabhupada. So that when you're here, you don't start to try and be comfortable. This is Hiranyakashipu mentality. Trying to soften everything in material world, it's just, yes, and stretching and trying to relax here. That's why Krishna has created this material existence with the ingredients of frustration. Isn't it, you do everything right and then something has to go wrong. This material world just, what's the saying? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and know that the worst is worse than you imagined. You pessimists, people accusative. Why are you so pessimistic? Optimism is useful in that you'll do something, but we are not optimistic about becoming happy here, things will work out. Because there's death. No matter how optimistic you are, death comes for everyone, takes it all. So our optimism is that if we follow in the footsteps of the realized persons who have taken the real education in life, and that education is found at the lotus feet of the spiritual authorities, at the feet of the pure devotees. This is real education. Then one makes the right investments with their time, their energy, their money. This is the education of Yukta Vairagya that Rupa Goswami gave. How The whole material world becomes paraphernalia for serving the Lord. It is all bhoga, and bhoga must be offered to Krishna. Then we take prasadam. Therefore, Prabhupada said, we would be happy chanting Hare Krishna under the trees, no problem. But we have to build all these beautiful temples so that you who like the shiny things will at least come. And then you, oh, so nice. Temples are so nice that even the criminals in our temple in Nairobi, at some point, the devotees were held up at gunpoint. One associate of some criminal came and saw all the jewelry of the Lord, just like it happened in Mayapur, and they thought, wow, we need to get paid. They've got like amazing riches at that temple. And so they came, held up everybody lie down, the devotees. I'm sure they were chanting Nishinga pranams under their breath. And then the one guy went, hey, old man, I said, lie down. And Prabhupada's just sitting there. Hey, I'll shoot you if you... And then one of them said, no, I don't think the old man is real. So, but out of respect, the thug just went and pulled Prabhupada's head over his eyes, pulled the head over his eyes. At least he shouldn't look at us while we pulled the head over his eyes. So shiny things, they attract. We see also in the spiritual movement. And Krishna has said, 4 kinds of people come: distress, desire of wealth, inquisitive, looking for knowledge. So we may be a mixture of these things. And sometimes even this ISKCON movement, especially these days, now that it's big and big, is attracting more and more people. And not all the people are coming because of surrender and wanting moksha. But they are seeing the shine of this movement. Oh, okay, I can get this, I can live here, I can travel there. Therefore, more challenges. We see tilak and all the things, but inside there, Vena is still more prominent. How to establish myself through institution. So yes, Prabhupada in the purport talked about the governments that are formed through democracy. We know Prabhupada called democracy. Yeah, demon craze. It's one of our powerful sutras we like. Demon crazy because generally the voters were affected by the demoniac mentality. Eat, drink, and be merry. And so what will we vote for? Some other rascal like us, just who's in political position, to provide more sense gratification. So the result is generally not so good. However, this is what humanity has so far. They are all voting for it as the best system yet. But when you think about it, if one party gets 50.1% of the vote, then they're considered they won. But you think there's 49.9 that didn't want those people, so was it really a victory? Then you find the whole time this one group is fighting and opposing the other. But when you ask them, they all want peace, security, and the country must develop. And then so why don't you cooperate and just get peace and security and develop the economy? No, this is a career. So each is thinking how to make money. And to make money as politicians, there must be problems. We have to keep the citizens in some problems so that they need so-called saviors called politicians to solve the problems. You see the illusion that's created. There's no need for politicians if everything is working successfully. Therefore, they thrive on creating these infighting and controversy and highlighting issues. It's called problem, reaction, solution. You create the problem and you let the citizens, oh no, this can't be, we can't live like this. Let them march and protest. And then once you get that reaction, then you come and say, yes, we will provide the solution. You created the problem. Yes. Just like the people created the viruses, and then, oh, your virus will wipe you out. Okay, let's make it a little less heavy. Viruses in computers. They also they create the viruses for the computers, and they create the antivirus and sell antivirus. An antivirus business would not work if they eradicate viruses from computers. So demon crazy. You think you're voting, you think this is blue, this is red, but if you go up in the pyramid, blue and red are having dinner together. They are laughing at all the people who think they are on two sides when it's just there's one group of controllers. Therefore, Bhagavatam gives the education that yes, the ultimate controller, the supreme controller, we have to surrender there. He's a transcendental autocrat, but he's our well-wisher. Then let his will be law. Let it be followed. So a Kshatriya king enforces that. Therefore, they are very strong. But not to just be the guy on top and everyone is under me, but to protect the people by practically lovingly forcing them to follow Dharma into the inoculation pool so that they can be cleansed of their material disease. Yes, so Prithu Maharaj is not corrupt. He's seeing both important citizens and the common citizens because his vision is equal. He's the father of all the citizens. He's seeing as the Lord sees, and he's protecting and serving as the Lord serves every living being. Okay, I think that is off the cuff of about this one. Anyone with any thoughts or questions? Srila Prabhupada ki. In a responsible monarchy, the citizens had no grievances against the government, and even if they did, they could approach the king directly for immediate satisfaction. Mm-hmm. So you can understand our situation is definitely far from this one. Yes, it means we're not in a responsible government, somewhat. Yes, sir.
Yes, the question that came up in my mind is, how is it possible that the millions of people in this state and quite some problems, how can everybody come to the king and present his problems? So many people.
Yes. See, the people themselves, different quality. There's problems that are serious, just like we hear how previously, if the son died before the father, then they could understand that the king is not ruling properly. The children should not die before the parents. Parents should go first. And therefore they would approach the king. So I've run out of data. You don't go to the king to report such problems. Or there's also a system that the king used, that he had like in his court, different persons who will sort of veto what should come to the king or not. If they could not solve it, the Brahmanas just got a Brahminical council. If they cannot figure it out, then they could escalate it towards the king. So it doesn't seem that it was completely everything, although because he was not an enemy of the citizens, he had no fears of the citizens per se. Unlike these today, there's like the politicians need lots of bodyguards, and still that doesn't work. Sometimes the bullets get through. So, anyway, I'm just reminded of a set of grievances that were brought to Yudhishthira Maharaj. One such was that the citizen observed that he had planted a small garden and had fenced it off, and he noticed that it seems like the fence was moving in on his crops. And he went to find out, why is it that, the fences are moving in into the crops? And the king could understand, no, this means Kali Yuga has started, and Kali Yuga means that the properties of the citizens are becoming taken, stolen by so-called leaders. He observed that the elephant was walking through the hole in the wall, but only his tail was getting caught in that hole. Right? So this something like that is completely bewildering. So then let's find out from the king, what is this? How is the elephant walking through a hole in the wall and only his tail is getting caught? So the king, being realized person, well, Kali Yuga means that the big criminals, they are not getting caught. And then the little ones, then they make a big example of you. You'll make the news, for your crimes. But the serious criminals, like we mentioned, we've got our deep state, they perpetrate like serious crimes, instigate, pay for both sides of the war, supply both sides with ammunition and everything, and then send out their own message on their own news stations to tell the people this is the problem, and how they send their own united so-called nations will solve it like this. So it's a big crime syndicate. But you don't see them in court. They got caught for this. But you try to steal like 10,000 euros from some regional office, you get caught and you're on the news. Kali Yuga. So certain things which were perplexing to even the Brahminical councils would make it to the king.
Yes, maybe there were also less problems.
Yes, I would say if Dharma is protected, then Dharma protects the citizens. In fact, they were shocked when there's a problem. That's why then it's like the king must explain what's going on. Because we are performing our duties accordingly, there shouldn't be these anomalies. Like something like rain was only at night. So you could go and find out what's going on. Why is it raining during the day? For us, it doesn't make sense. What's the problem? So, but the Dharma connects the devas, the humans, the king, like that. So there's a system that operates in a certain way. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Maharaj, the question is about, you had mentioned that poverty also destroys spiritual qualities, and also takes the spiritual good out of a person. So if you can highlight and explain a bit more on that.
Chanakya Pandit mentions this. So in two ways, when one is poor, especially materially, then one is desperate to alleviate that situation of poverty. Then they will tend to take shelter of anything that seems to give some protection from that difficulty. So because of poverty, then, crime can be there. Because one is poor, then one will accept whatever food to eat. Beggars can be choosers. The other side is that the so-called poverty of a renounced saintly person or Brahminical person is seen by the materialists as a sign of being illiterate, unable to make it in life, and therefore they see that person as insignificant. For example, Daksha sees Lord Shiva as an insignificant person because Lord Shiva, his fashion is ashes on his body, garlands of skulls. He lives under a tree. And Daksha is opulent palaces. So he thought this Shiva is useless guy, and my daughter married a useless man, poor guy. And in this way, offended a great soul. So in that way, poverty covers the good qualities of a person. Hare Krishna. Okay, we're approaching the best part of the day. Yes. Hare Krishna. You had something in mind? Oh. Yes, Krishna Prem Rupa. You didn't have anything. Okay. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande Hari. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu.